Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of May. I hope you're well. We're using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today, and I know these are late, so thank you very much for waiting for me. I appreciate it greatly. Right, we've had quite a few new people join the channel recently, so if you are new, welcome. Obviously, if you're returning, you know I love you. So I thought we'd go through how the mid-month readings differ slightly from the main monthly overviews, in so much as we are looking for the lesson. Right? I think that there is wisdom or a lesson contained in every experience and interaction that we have if we are open to seeing it, and often we're not, because well, you know, modern life can be quite overwhelming, and it's only really in hindsight, being 2020 and all that it is, that we realise quite, you know, what was being lined up for us. And so this is an exercise in perspective. It's taking the energy of where you are right now, and it's having a look to see why you are there, you know, kind of pulling out and looking at the broader picture. Sometimes it's trying to teach you something about yourself, almost always it's trying to do that, but other times it's trying to help you release things, help you embrace things. Now, with this reading taking place during Mercury retrograde and, you know, in the aftermath of a very powerful full moon in Scorpio with a lunar eclipse, no less, the emphasis is definitely on release at this point, but there may well be other things that come up. So I hope that that makes sense. We'll pull 3 cards for your current energy, 3 cards to see where you are, and then 3 cards of advice, and see if we can't help you navigate this a little bit well, more easily, I guess. So let's have 3 cards for Aries' current energy, please. Fucking hell. Right, we have, down here, the Queen of Cups in reverse. Current energy. We have the Queen of Wands in reverse. And we have the Judgment card showing up here. So the very first thing is to note is the fact that this Aries card here, this Queen of Wands, is in the reverse. You know, it's a state of some rather complete disempowerment and going on here. When the Queen of Wands is in the upright, you know, she's bold, she's dynamic, she's confident, she's willing to go out and get whatever it is that she wants, very much like you, Aries. When she's showing up in the reverse, you know, all of those things that make her, you know, the glorious archetype that she is, and by extension you, are somewhat muted. And I feel like that's the right word to use here. Everything about your energy at the moment is muted, Aries. We've got the 7 of Swords and the Devil and the Death card at the bottom of the deck here. Now, for some of you, that Death card will be literal, right? There are losses that you are dealing with right now. But for others of you, there's a really strong sense of trying to make sense of a change that has occurred, right? The Death card, in addition to speaking to literal death, as it does sometimes, does speak very strongly to this notion of transformation. And whether it's through the loss of someone, through bereavement, or whether it's through separation, or whether, you know, any one of a number of other ways in which losses and bereavements can occur, because we do grieve everything that is lost. This Devil card and the 7 of Swords says to me that you are really struggling to find the sense in this. You know, why has this happened? Why did this need to happen? How could there be anything, you know, good that could come from this? It's very much focusing on the loss. We've got the Queen of Cups, who is also in the reverse here, which I find quite telling, because it does feel like you've kind of closed in on yourself. You know, I said all of your energy felt muted. Well, you know, your external energy, that glorious Aries energy, is muted, but in your heart you feel like you have retreated to a safe distance, you know, and it just feels everything's quite cruel at the moment. It just feels like everything is cruel. And there's very little of light here for you anywhere. We've got this Judgment card. And, you know, that's not a stranger to Mercury retrograde. We usually see the Judgment card somewhere because it does talk about old things coming to the surface. The problem for you, I feel, at this point is that you are so stuck with, you know, whatever it is that has kind of dimmed your light so dramatically as it has, that looking through, you know, where patterns might be repeating or something like that is too difficult at this point. Tell me about this Judgment card. Yeah, we've got the Tower. Like, for you, it feels a little bit like the Tower is still falling, actually. We've got the Sun card that's coming out with it, which I think augurs really well. And there you are in the upright at the bottom of the deck here. And there's something really rather beautiful about that, because it does speak to you at your core being very altered by this experience. Right? And not in a bad way. Although you are struggling at the moment, Aries, and that is absolutely, very apparent. You are in a transitory period, right? There is transformations going on right, left and centre, not just of your 3D environment, but the way that you respond to it, But who you are at the centre, will recover. That's what I'm seeing here. It's very, very strong. It will recover. But the Tower is still falling at the moment. So you can't really expect to be able to make sense of this situation. You can't really be expected to find the positivity in this situation, because the storm is still raging, right? This takes time. But the fact that the Tower and the Sun are both appearing together, it doesn't mean that what has gone, well, good, it's gone, everything's going to be better. It's not that kind of energy. It's that it can be refound later when you have processed what you are going through right now, when the Tower has stopped falling down, when the skies have cleared, and where everything seems a bit clearer, because everything feels very foggy, very muted to you. It feels like that to me, just kind of looking at these cards here. So, why is Aries in this energy? We've got the Four of Swords coming up here for you. We've got the Wheel of Fortune. Oh, and we've got the Page of Wands. And the very first thing that I heard is that the only thing that remains consistent is that everything changes. And I wonder if change is something that you have been struggling to adapt to recently. There's as I was talking about the full moon there, and also the lunar eclipse, we've got what is being highlighted within us, particularly given that this full moon was in Scorpio, is those things that sit really, really deep within us, right? The things that we possibly have glossed over the top of for a long time. And certainly, for you, Aries, things that you may have avoided looking at in favour of, moving forwards, always moving forwards. And moving forwards is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. We need to do that. But when the Tower hits, it's because there are faulty foundations somewhere. This is why the Tower falls down, frankly, when the lightning hits it. And so what you're being asked to do is make peace with those feelings that are coming up, right? The way in which this situation has played out will be different for each of you, but the way that you respond to it, I feel, is the same. The things that it is bringing up in you might well be the same. Some of these might be abandonment issues. Never really feeling like you were looked after. I think this is interesting with Aries, is that they're often, almost always, right, incredibly independent minded. You always do things for yourself. The thing is, and this hit me a bit like a lightning bolt once when I was considering it in terms of myself, that's often a trauma response. That which we really prize within ourselves and that we wouldn't let go of for love nor money, being our independence and the ability that we have to do things all by ourselves, is often because nobody else was there to do it for us, And it seems to me like there's a lot of thinking, because it might be that you don't have anyone around you at the moment who can do these things for you. Maybe you're having to do it for yourself. But this Four of Swords says it's okay to take a break. You don't actually have to do it for yourself all the time, because it feels to me like there may well be people around you who can help, but there's certainly a need to let the dust settle before you start acting too strongly in any kind of direction, right? And making sure that you know where that is coming from. Because certainly if you are grieving for a loss, whether it is a bereavement or whether it is a loss of something else, we grieve all the same. That's a process that needs to be honoured. And if you, Jupiter has just moved into Aries, and so as I've said to a couple of the other signs, there is this, there will be this tendency for most of us to jump into things too quickly, right? To overcommit, go in, you know, balls deep on something, when actually what it needed was a little bit of time to stand back, right? Again, I'm going to bring you back to the fact that the tower is still coming down. You can't make sense of anything that's going on. You can't really do much in a practical sense. And whilst this might be triggering off all sorts of other issues in you, like abandonment, like fear of X, Y, and Z, you know, like I said, it's going to be different for each of you. Often, when we don't know what to do, the best thing to do is nothing. Just sit and wait. It's certainly what I do anyway. My Mars is in Libra though, so I wonder if that's a thing there. Because the wheel is turning, and the wheel will continue to turn, and things will continue to change around you, and you have to have time to allow the changes to bed in before you start making plans for the future. And we've got this page of wands here. You know, it's talking to the fact that sometimes inaction is the best form of action when everything seems foggy and when everything seems unclear. Let's have a look. Let's get you some cards of advice. Get some cards of advice for Aries, please. We've got the King of Cups, the Lovers, which is the card of Gemini, and we've got the Two of Swords. And I think, you know, speaking of balance and just, you know, waiting and holding on, we've got the Six of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, which can be sometimes a card that speaks of, you know, charity and stuff like that, but I don't feel that here for you. I feel it's like you need to allow things to balance, you need to allow things to settle before you move forwards, because whatever has just occurred for you has really, really strong emotional implications. We've got the King of Cups there, which is a Scorpio card. You may be dealing with a Scorpio, you may be not. It may just be the influence of the Scorpio full moon, but there are deep feelings here, right, that seem to have been cut off suddenly. Like there's not a way for you to express them now in a way that you would have liked to have done. And that a lot of the emotional reactions that you are having right now are coming from this place of deep emotion. And I don't think that you understand it fully yet. You know, it's stuff coming up to the surface. And we've got this Lover's card here saying that it is possible for you to manifest what it is that you want. It is possible for you to move forwards. It is possible for you to to choose. But as yet, it looks to me like you don't quite understand what it is that you have to choose between. And so the message, again, I am doubling down on the message, is that it's okay to start thinking about what you might do, but your time might be better spent with working out what is in front of you right now. Well, not even in front of you, right? What is inside of you right now? What has been triggered recently? And where has it set off a cascade of triggers further back? Because this is something that you seem to be being asked to look at, and particularly for the next 2 weeks, because we are still in, I think Mercury station's direct on the 3rd of June. I'm sure it's around about then, because I remember thinking it was like the day before I go away on holiday, and thank fuck, although it's still in the shadow period. But, you know, and that energy does not support jumping forwards. It does not support launching yourself into something, because you're going to miss details. And at this point, standing still is the best way to you know, collect all of the details up, whether they are about the situation as it is in front of you, or just maintaining your peace for long enough to allow the tower to completely fall, and then start picking through the rubble and seeing what is in there, specifically what is in there with reference to you and the way that you are experiencing the world right now. Kind of difficult couple of weeks, but the more you can rely on well, the more you can default to sitting and waiting and seeing and pulling away from energy, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even remember. using energy to take yourself somewhere else, you know, doing things. Beware of contracts and things like that. Don't be signing anything if you can possibly manage it right now. But now is the time for details. Stuff outside of you, stuff inside of you. Let the bigger picture, which is the tower, just keep going until it's had a chance to start settling down and the clouds are clearing and stuff like that. I hope that this makes sense, because it seems to me that you don't have all of the information yet, Aries, and concerned about that Jupiter in Aries having us leaping forward when actually we should be standing still and, you know, listening to the Mercury retrograde. So I hope that this helps. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.